So hey guys, I'm back with another video. Today we are going to be looking at something different, and uh, we are going to be making the Eevee scene much more better for you guys. So I only recommend you guys to do this after you have done all the texturing and all. For example, you can see all the texturing is done and all that stuff. Okay, so let's start with our tutorial. So as you can see, this is the default Eevee settings, and nothing really looks that, like, it's not the greatest thing ever, right? It looks fine because of the scene is already better. The scene was this scene wasn't made by me, it was taken from Sketchfab. You guys can also practice using this scene on the Sketchfab, or you can take any scene from Sketchfab into Blender and practice your uh, shading skills or anything else that you want to do. um, okay, so let's start with the basic thing. First of all, that I would like to tell you guys is that use Blender 4.3. Now why and what is the reason for using Blender 4.3 is because of ray tracing. And also one more thing that you will be like, yeah, well, 4.2 also has ray tracing, right? Yeah, 4.2 also has a ray tracing, but it has IG approximation, which is not great for your scenes. Let me just show you. So with the ray tracing on, it just looks much better already. Like, there's nothing much to do right now. Like, you'll be like, yeah, that's better, right? But if you go cycles, let me just go to GPU, and yeah, you can see that the values over here, let me just turn on the denoising. You can see that, yeah, it looks pretty great in cycles. I wonder why. You see that let me just show you guys. Okay, so if you go here, if you go at this spot, you are getting this global illumination. You can see that there's a gradient. Here the light is falling, and here you can see a fall off. Now this is because of path tracing. Path tracing uses only like beams of lights which intersect with the meshes, and shaders do the shader thing, and you get nice and crispy shaders, right? Or textures. Whereas in Eevee, it's more like it's trying to fake it. You can kind of see some like gradient, but there's not a lot of gradient. You can also see some weird stuff happening like that. It turns out like brighter, and why is this thing so like bright? That is because of this. That is because of IG approximation. Now if you turn this thing off, there's not an option to turn this thing off in the 4.2 Blender. It is just a default setting. To turn this thing off, it looks bland. Yeah, it outright looks bland, right? That means, yeah, most of the heavy lifting was done. Now this is using the it uses ambient occlusion to calculate shadows and global illumination. But if you just turn this thing off, it's gonna get better. Let me just show you guys. So if you go for one, it's not gonna make a huge difference, but you can turn on the precision as much as you can, and nothing much. Now you're like, yeah, well, that doesn't look great, and you promise us to make the scene look like cycles. And one thing that stays constant throughout all these tutorials is probes. You can see over here there's something to say about light probes, and you can use light probes over here. And what you can do is that you can go to the light probe section, and you can just pull out volume. And once you pull out volume, you will see a cube like this right over here. And what you want to do is that scale this thing and make sure that you are covering all of your part of your scene. And I'm just gonna make this huge. You can squish and squash it, It doesn't have something called like scale. You don't have to apply scale on this one, but if you could, I don't think so you need to apply scale on this. Make sure that all these dots are there, and then all you need to do is to go to the volume, and you will see over here the data tab, and you need to go to here and just increase the resolution to 24, something like that. More resolutions means, yeah, it computes these points more and more, the more accurate lighting you will get. And also don't forget, in the capture section you need to turn on bold. If you don't turn on the bold SGRI that you have using, that you are using, it won't take that into the final computation. Now also there's one more cool thing that you guys will see, is that if I go to, let me just bring out a light, let me just go over here and shift A. If I go to bring out a point light, if I just go over here, and if I just, you guys can see like the light over here. Now the reason why the light is not like, like going off is because of this light probe. The difference between light probe is, you can see there's barely any difference between the light probe and not light probe. But if you go for screen tracing, things look better, right? They look better. But there's a problem with screen tracing, that if you just move a certain way, or it will just say that, yeah, the light doesn't exist. And the reason why you are seeing light over here is because of like the light, the volume that we have added. So what we can do is that before we do that, just check everything, yeah, and then we'll just make it. It will take time, but yeah, it will give you a day and night difference in the scene. And you can see already that is much more high contrast, and it just looks much more better. But it's still really dark for my liking, right? And also one more thing is that you can kind of tweak, is that you are using color management. If everything just looks extremely dark like this, we can just play around with the color management and make the scenes much more like as much you like it, as much as you want. Also, one more setting that you guys can tweak is that you can change the intensity back and forth. For example, the higher the intensity, the more brighter things will get. The lower the intensity, the more intense the shadows will get. I usually keep it to something like 2A5. You can also tweak these, but I don't know what kind of like. It feels like it kind of has like a little bit more like shadows a little bit. They get a little bit more, like, rather than being too contrast that into the background, they just become much more, like light. And let's keep it. And you can play around with these settings too, to make whatever. And Eevee is not the perfect thing to get like realistic renders. You can kind of like play around, like bake the light again if you want to. If you have any changes like that, and then we'll just get a pretty good scene. And this is already much better. This is what we were working with. And this is just the baked lighting. It doesn't need ray tracing to make stuff good, but you can see definitely there's a huge difference with ray tracing and ray tracing. It just makes scenes look much more better, in my opinion. And yeah, that's one way to do it. And also you can add more like stuff like lights and stuff inside. So you can like get some nice global illumination. And yeah, it's up to you. You can play around with these settings, add what you're seeing, whether it's too dark, whether it's too light. And you can make sure that however you play around with that, you can get something pretty close to cycles you can see. But cycles, I mean, you can't really beat cycles in terms of the realism that it has. But yeah, they can get something close to it like this. And yeah, that's it.